SpaceX is once again ramping up to the launch of another Starship rocket from southern Texas. The mission, dubbed Flight 6, will see the launch of the Super Heavy booster, tail number B-13, and the ship upper stage, S-31. On November 11th, S-31 rolled out to the orbital launch mount in preparation for the forthcoming mission. B-13 was hoisted onto the OLM early in the morning hours of November 14th, and later that day, S-31 completed the stack as seen in this time-lapse video. The next launch of Starship comes a little more than a month after Flight 5 in mid-October.
Here we go!
That mission made history as SpaceX proved it was capable of catching the Super Heavy booster mid-air. NASA astronaut Randy Bresnik says it's remarkable to see the progress made by SpaceX in the past few years, using learning from its Falcon 9 rocket to help inform Starship.
To have that be in development, watch them land their first stages of the Falcon 9 for several years now, and how revolutionary that is. I think I just saw, they had one booster do its 23rd landing. Just when you think about the cost, and that being the most expensive part of the rocket, that they've got 23, amortized that rocket's cost over 23 launches is, we're moving so fast, I don't think people realize how revolutionary that is. And so take that up a notch to where you've now got these super heavies with all these Raptor engines and how expensive it is to see that thing come back and fly next to structure and come in and get caught by those chopsticks was, the next, revolutionary piece.
Bresnik is not just a NASA astronaut. He's the assistant to the chief of the Astronaut Office. His role includes helping to manage and test all of the components for the Artemis architecture that will impact astronauts. It's a role he's held since 2018.
The biggest thing to note with Starship, having been in other spacecraft, is how big it is. That is just such a unusual thing for us for a dynamic spacecraft. Space station is the size of, they say, like a 5-bedroom house on the interior volume, and but to have go from an Orion or a Soyuz, like I flew, or a shuttle, and just go into the expanse of the flight deck of Starship is just amazing.
Starship will be used as the human landing system for Artemis missions 3 and 4, NASA's first astronaut missions to reach the moon's surface since 1972. And even though neither NASA nor SpaceX have yet published expansive visual details of the interior of the HLS version of Starship, Bresnik was able to paint us a word picture.
You've got a part of it where it's the flight deck where the seats are, where the controls and displays are. And then you've got, on the same floor, you've got the habitation areas, the hygiene areas. And then you go down into another deck below to where you then have access to the airlocks, which then go to what they call the garage, with the garage being the part that's exposed to vacuum, where you end up would exit the airlocks in your spacesuits to be able to hop on the elevator to then go down to the lunar surface.
Bresnik and other astronauts have been able to travel to SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne, California, to hold what they refer to as office hours about once a month. There, they can offer input into ways to improve Starship and make it more user-friendly and supportive for lunar exploration.
We're not buying the car like we used to with our programs. We are getting a service. They're having a lunar lander in lunar orbit that we will use for the lunar surface, more like a rental car type of idea. And so we have requirements, but it's up to them to see how they implement them. So it is us bringing expertise that they can use as they come up with their ideas and innovate on how to implement those requirements.
Bresnik says providing that feedback is not only helpful for NASA's use of Starship for the Artemis program, but also for SpaceX in a commercial sense.
We've got such a wide base of astronauts that have flown on different vehicles and lived and worked in space, that even though right now they're building their one of their Starships for us for this lunar landing mission, for taking 2 crew members down and then ultimately 4 crew members down to the surface. We also know that they're, a company that's building their Starship for other purposes as well, where they want to take a lot more people on their Starship and go on, voyages in our solar system. And so that's where, when they have questions, we're able to share our, long duration experience and help them, not say influence their designs, but inform them as they make their designs.
As NASA watches Flight 6 of Starship, One of the planned demonstrations is the relight of a Raptor vacuum engine. That capability will be key to future orbital operations and a requirement from NASA along the Artemis path. Bresnik says he's also hoping they're successful in catching the Super Heavy booster once again.
So, one data point, was great. Be great to be able to see this be repeatable and see that they've got some longevity on the concept. And then it'll be trying to catch the Starship tankers as well. So catch the first stage, catch the tanker up top that'll be refueling. The biggest milestone, we're looking at, next year is to see how those tankers can refuel the propellant Starship in Earth orbit and transfer that, cryogenic rocket fuel in space to fill up the depot that's going to be sitting up there that the HLS Starship has to get its gas from after it launches, because it can't launch fully fueled.
Those on-orbit fueling tests are anticipated to begin in the spring of 2025. But before they get to that point, they need to build confidence with catching the booster. Following Flight 5, SpaceX founder Elon Musk inadvertently shared audio of a Starship debrief with SpaceX employees. One of them noted that the booster landing was very close to going awry.
On the landing burn, we had a misconfigured spin gas aboard that didn't have quite the right ramp-up time for bringing up spin pressure, and we were 1 second away from that tripping and telling the rocket to abort and try to crash into the ground next to the tower.
Wow.
Instead of the tanker.
Another employee pointed to part of the chine that broke off near the base of the booster as it was making its return to the launch site. They said that area was a concern during pre-launch evaluations.
We were worried about these spot weld margins on chine skin before flight. We wouldn't have predicted the exact right place, but this cover that ripped off was right on top of a bunch of the single point failure valves that must work during the landing burn. So thankfully none of those or the harnessing got damaged, but we ripped this chine cover off over some really critical equipment right as landing burn was starting. We have a plan to address that.
While the audio cut off shortly after this part of the discussion, SpaceX did provide some broad clarity on its website as it described the Flight 6 mission. Hardware upgrades for this flight add additional redundancy to booster propulsion systems, increase structural strength at key areas, and shorten the timeline to offload propellants from the booster following a successful catch, SpaceX wrote. Mission designers also updated software controls and commit criteria for the booster's launch and return.
3 seconds till catch decision.
As with Flight 5, SpaceX says during Flight 6, it will abort a booster catch attempt in the event that, quote, distinct vehicle and pad criteria, unquote, are not met prior to making the attempt. If that happens, the booster would perform a soft water landing in the Gulf of Mexico, as it did during Flight 4. The final call is up to the SpaceX launch director.
Coming in hot for booster catch.
Regarding the upper stage, Flight 6 will be the final launch of the Block 1 version of the ship before the next iteration takes its place on Flight 7. The Flight 6 Starship is set to launch in the late afternoon, allowing the upper stage to splash down in the Indian Ocean under daylight for the first time. In preparation for this, SpaceX performed a static fire test of S-31 back in mid-September, and then it conducted a static fire test of B-13 on October 26th. The level of success seen on Flight 6 will help determine the timeline for the next Starship mission, Flight 7. Reporting for Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith.